I finished the one side of the belt loop. I'm going to go ahead now and glue this other part down, and the belt loop will be finished, and I then can glue the front panel onto the back panel. Belt loop is sewn on, and I'm going to go ahead and glue the front piece on here. I think when I do that, I'm going to go ahead and put my wooden blank mold in here so that it's the right shape when I glue it on and position it. So I'll go ahead and put some glue down there and glue it on. Go from there. This is finished gluing, and I went ahead and drilled the holes for the stitching. So my next effort will be to stitch it up. I just finished the stitching around the edge. I'm going to go ahead and trim off this back leather piece so it's the right size. There's a rough cut. I'll have to trim up the top here too. But you can see the edge where I cut it. I'll have to re-dye this and then trim the edge. I finished trimming the top part here. I just wanted to show you what it would look like at this point. So now I'm going to go ahead and use this edge tool and round off the edge before I seal it up. So I'll go ahead and finish that and re-dye this and then start sealing it up. I wanted you to see the completed second version. So I don't know if the third version is going to make it or not. I may have to rethink that one. Anyway, that's the second one. This was the first one. The third sheath is dry. I'm going to go ahead and scribe a line around it for the stitching. I think I'm going to make it slightly wider than this one. Go ahead and pop this off here and probably go ahead and cut off the excess leather. Okay, I think the next thing to do probably is to get another piece of leather for the back side. Okay, I went ahead and put the knife in here like it will go in when it's together. And I went ahead and drew a line in here on the inside edge, the shape of the knife, which I'm going to go ahead and cut off now. And I think I'm going to use scissors this time. This one I want to go in almost all the way. You can see it's pretty much covered up there when it's in here. And I got to cut another piece for the back piece too. I have a couple different options I can do with this case, and I think what I'm going to do at first try is to cut a groove on the inside of this leather because it's so thick, and let the clip of the knife slide inside the sheath, but leave the outside one piece of leather. If that doesn't work, I may end up putting a leather strip over the cutout. So like this one's an open cutout. I'd have a leather strip around this, but I would rather just cut a slot inside of this one, but I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, so I'll go off and see if I can figure that out, cut it out, and try that. Before I do any other work on this, I'm going to go ahead and case it with some water and put a pattern in the front here. And I think I'm going to do something like this right up the middle. I put a pencil mark on here before I started putting that water on, but it just wiped it right off. I just want to have an idea where the center is so that when I stamp it, I'm pretty much going in a straight line. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to use this small piece of railroad track as the solid surface to pound against. There's the center. Now for the little border, a little more water on here. And on this one, basically, I put the little, it's called a veneer, I believe. Put it at the base of each one of these little, I don't know what that's called, like a wheat burst. Okay, that's what it's going to look like. I'm going to try cutting out that area for the clip with this little V-groove tool. Let's see if I can just do it deep enough here to make it work. Well, it's coming along. I think I'll finish that up and come back. I went ahead and cut that groove in there. I think it's pretty good. Once I put some sealer in here and mat that down, it won't look so rough. And I did kind of feather out this edge a little bit. I may have to kind of pry it open a little bit here when I finish this off. Okay, this one I'm going to use a different stain on. I want something a little lighter, and this one's EcoFlow Professional Water Stain Light Brown. And I did a little sample piece, and it's much lighter. I like this color, so we'll see how close it comes out to that. It will probably end up a little darker once I put the sealer on it. But the first thing I'm going to do is do the inside here. Okay, there's a little bit of a sample. That's the inside, just so it doesn't show when you look down inside of it. So I'll go ahead and do the rest of it and then come back. I finished up dyeing these pieces and they look pretty good. So the next thing that I will probably have to do is sew the belt loop on the back here. So I'll glue it on, sew it on, then glue this front piece on, trim off the excess and sew it around the edge. So anyway, this has to dry a little bit more, so I'm going to wait for that to happen, and I'll get started on the belt loop. I'm ready to glue this belt strip on to start sewing it on, but I went ahead and roughed up the surface so that the glue will stick. So I'll glue that on and stitch it on and come back. Okay, the belt loop is stitched on. So the next thing I'm going to do is glue this on, and then I'll have to stitch this. The back is now glued on. I'll have to trim it off after I stitch it, but I've gone ahead and put the little dents in with the star wheel to stitch it. So I'll drill the holes and stitch it up, and then I can trim off the excess. Okay, the front is stitched on, so now I have to trim off this excess leather. I went ahead and trimmed off the excess leather from the back. I'm going to trim the edges here, just bevel them, and then I'll end up having to re-dye these edges, and it's ready for sealer after that, I think. See what that edge looks like when I do that. Well, I went ahead and re-dyed the edges, so it's ready to seal now. And that's about the last step besides some burnishing. I'm just finishing putting on the last of the sealer. And I'll let this dry a little bit and then start to burnish the edges. Let's see how it looks as it's still kind of wet with that sealer. I'm just finishing up here on the last burnishing, and it's still a little damp. I'll give you an idea what it looks like here in just a second. I don't want to put the knife in it yet because it's still a little damp. It's not as moist on the inside because I already sealed it on the inside earlier. And then once this dries off, I'll buff it off with a rag a little bit as well. Okay, the project's done. 3 different styles. First one is with the clip goes over the sheath. Second one is the clip goes into a slot in the sheath. And the third one, there's a recess inside in this one where the clip goes inside and gets covered up. And that's the finished product. Thanks for watching.